knowledge, and must know more about it; and also that being a man myself, I might seem to be defending myself in an unbecoming manner. Therefore I made a low bow, and went, in doubt as to which had the right of it. But though he had so far dismissed me, I was not yet quite free to go, inasmuch as I had not money enough to take me all the way to Oare, unless indeed I should go afoot, and beg my sustenance by the way, which seemed to be below me. Therefore I got my few clothes packed, and my few debts paid, all ready to start in half an hour, if only they would give me enough to set out upon the road with. For I doubted not, being young and strong, that I could walk from London to Oare in 10 days, or in 12 at most, which was not much longer than horse work; only I had been a fool, as you will say when you hear it. For after receiving from Master Spank the amount of the bill which I had delivered, less indeed by 50 shillings than the money my mother had given me, for I had spent 50 shillings and more in seeing the town and treating people, which I could not charge to His Majesty, I had first paid all my debts thereout, which were not very many; and then supposing myself to be an established creditor of the Treasury for my coming needs, and already scenting the country air, and foreseeing the joy of my mother, what had I done but spent half my balance, ay, and more than 3/4 of it, upon presents for mother, and Annie, and Lizzie, John Fry and his wife, and Betty Muxworthy, Bill Dadds, Jim Slocombe, and in a word, half of the rest of the people at Oare, including all the Snowe family, who must have things good and handsome. And if I must, while I am about it, hide nothing from those who read me, I had actually bought for Lorna a thing the price of which quite frightened me, till the shopkeeper said it was nothing at all, and that no young man, with a lady to love him, could dare to offer her rubbish, such as the Jew sold across the way. Now the mere idea of beautiful Lorna ever loving me, which he talked about as patly (though of course I never mentioned her), as if it were a settled thing, and he knew all about it, that mere idea so drove me abroad, that if he had asked 3 times as much, I could never have counted the money. Now in all this I was a fool, of course; not for remembering my friends and neighbours, which a man has a right to do, and indeed is bound to do when he comes from London; but for not being certified first what cash I had to go on with. And to my great amazement, when I went with another bill for the victuals of only 3 days more, and a week's expense on the homeward road reckoned very narrowly, Master Spank not only refused to grant me any interview, but sent me out a piece of blue paper, looking like a butcher's ticket, and bearing these words and no more: "John Ridd, go to the devil. He who will not when he may, when he will, he shall have nay." From this I concluded that I had lost favour in the sight of Chief Justice Jeffreys; perhaps because my evidence had not proved of any value; perhaps because he meant to let the matter lie, till cast on him. Anyhow, it was a reason of much grief, and some anger to me, and very great anxiety, disappointment, and suspense. For here was the time of the hay gone past, and the harvest of small corn coming on, and the trout now rising at the Yellow Sally, and the blackbirds eating our white heart cherries, I was sure, though I could not see them; and who was to do any good for mother, or stop her from weeping continually? And more than this, what was become of Lorna? Perhaps she had cast me away altogether, as a flouter and a changeling; perhaps she had drowned herself in the black well; perhaps (and that was worst of all) she was even married, child as she was, to that vile Carver Doone, if the Doones ever cared about marrying. The last thought sent me down at once to watch for Mr. Spank again, resolved that if I could catch him, spank him I would to a pretty good tune, although 16 in family. However, there was no such thing as to find him; and the usher vowed (having orders, I doubt) that he was gone to the sea, for the good of his health, having sadly overworked himself; and that none but a poor devil like himself, who never had handling of money, would stay in London, this foul hot weather, which was likely to bring the plague with it. Here was another new terror for me, who had heard of the plagues of London, and the horrible things that happened; and so going back to my lodgings at once, I opened my clothes, and sought for spots, especially as being so long at a hairy fellmonger's; but finding none, I fell down and thanked God for that same, and vowed to start for Oare to morrow, with my carbine loaded, come will, come woe, come sun, come shower, though all the parish should laugh at me for begging my way home again, after the brave things said of my going, as if I had been the King's cousin. But I was saved in some degree from this lowering of my pride, and what mattered more, of mother's; for going down to buy with my last crown piece (after all demands were paid) a little shot and powder, more needful on the road almost than even shoes or victuals. At the corner of the street I met my good friend Jeremy Stickles, newly come in search of me. I took him back to my little room, mine at least till to-morrow morning, and told him all my story, and how much I felt aggrieved by it. But he surprised me very much by showing no surprise at all. "It is the way of the world, Jack. They have gotten all they can from thee, and why should they feed thee further? We feed not a dead pig, I trow, but baste him well with brine and rue. Nay, we do not victual him upon the day of killing, which they have done to thee. Thou art a lucky man, John. Thou hast gotten one day's wages, or at any rate half a day, after thy work was rendered. God have mercy on me, John. The things I see are manifold, and so is my regard of them. What use to insist on this, or make a special point of that, or hold by something said of old, when a different mood was on? I tell thee, Jack, all men are liars, and he is the least one who presses not too hard on them for lying." This was all quite dark to me, for I never looked at things like that, and never would own myself a liar, not at least to other people, nor even to myself, although I might to God sometimes, when trouble was upon me. And if it comes to that, no man has any right to be called a liar for smoothing over things unwitting, through duty to his neighbour. "£5 thou shalt have, Jack," said Jeremy Stickles suddenly, while I was all abroad with myself as to being a liar or not. "£5, and I will take my chance of wringing it from that great rogue Spank. 10 I would have made it, John, but for bad luck lately. Put back your bits of paper, lad. I will have no acknowledgment. John Ridd, no nonsense with me." For I was ready to kiss his hand, to think that any man in London, the meanest and most suspicious place upon all God's earth, should trust me with £5, without even a receipt for it. It overcame me so that I sobbed, for after all, though big in body, I am but a child at heart. It was not the £5 that moved me, but the way of giving it, and after so much bitter talk, the great trust in my goodness. End of chapter 26. Read by Landy in Sydney, Australia, September 2008.